Welcome back to One Punch Man Anime Review, episode number 8. This are reviewing the 18th episode of the anime, The Monster Uprising, which is the 6th episode of Season 6. This one covers 62, chapters 62 to 63, 62 to 66, roughly 5 full chapters, plus they adapt the pages get up from chapter 60 in this episode. It comes roughly halfway through, and it's a brief 10-second scene of Geno basically just confronting, well, the dog hero. Yep. These two panels are actually put into the anime. So yes, chapter 60 is pretty much been adapted. Now this episode, surprisingly, now this is kind of like what they did with episode 2, where the chapters they actually put in the episode, they adapted the entire thing. Of course, they did make some changes to it, yes, but they didn't skip 40 pages this time. Unlike last week's episode, this one had many changes from the manga. Oh my gosh, there was tons of them. Alright, first let's start with this particular... Now, before I get to the changes, basically, let's talk about what happened in this episode. Okay, we have a few different things going on. We have Genos at the martial arts tournament watching Saitama. Well, Saitama himself does participate in the tournament. He does have a match in here, but it's not until the end of the episode. Kind of like it was last week. Yep. And of course, he does get a call. I will talk about these changes soon. He gets a call because of all the monster attacks, so he goes out and defeats all 5 of them. Well, the first 4 he beats pretty simply. The last one, he actually, believe it takes a little while to actually beat. That's why I think he heavily damaged him. Yep. And of course, it's also kind of revealed this episode, even though that this kid actually found very recently in the manga, actually just prior to chapter 100, by the Child Emperor, this kid who's the son of one of the backers of the Hero Association, he gets kidnapped, and apparently this guy provides 7% of the finances for the Hero Association. Okay. And, oh yeah, and by the way, the last monster, it looks like a guy in a costume. Okay, and apparently he's a monster. Okay. Oh, and Genos kills him by incinerating him, and then he says, oh, his feet slid, maybe he got away. Even though it could looks like, yeah, he pretty much vaporized him. Yep, we also have we pick up with the battle between Super S and Buzzard. It's a pretty brutal battle. At one point, they actually have her slice open the back of her beautiful dress, showing up the back of her bra, and heavily bruising her back. Yeah, and Resolution is like, okay, I'm gonna draw your little sister out. And Buzzard's like, you really want to draw my older sister out? Yeah, people get this concept confused in this series because of their height difference, because they think that the terrible Twister is the little sister of Hellish Buzzard. It's actually the reverse. Hellish Buzzard is the little sister of Terrible Twister. Yeah, it's never been fully explained in the series exactly why this is, why she's shorter than her sister. Yeah, it's completely unknown. And of course, like Saitama, she has that emotionless, drawn face, just like that Saitama occasionally has for his, duh moment. Yeah, she's one of 2, she and Saitama are the only 2 characters that do this. And apparently no other character actually does this. I mean, not Genos. Yeah, Genos does not do this. No other character. Just Saitama and Terrible Twister, and that's it. Of course, Sweet S Super S gets away. Of course, well, she also has... Apparently, she took off screen that, well, she took control of the Buzzard branch and just sort of turned into her slaves, or brainwashed slaves. Yeah, despite that she does get away, I should point out, though, she just made a return recently in the manga, where she basically got murdered by Sweet Mask. Yeah, she's dead. Yep. So any monsters show up in these past few episodes, they do come back. So at least at 1, the writer of the series was saving from later. So, okay, we introduce him here, doing some rampaging, get away, stuff like that. And of course, Terrible Twister chastises his sister's hey, why are you still with the B Association? You should be A-class hero by now. Yep. And of course, she has a flashback to what Saitama said to her back in the 2nd episode of the season, which is basically about 3 episodes back. Actually, it was like 2 episodes. Yeah, it was basically in episode 2. Yeah, just 4 episodes back. There's a flashback to it. Basically, him saying something to her, basically some advice that she's like, "Oh, shut up." Yeah, but apparently she takes his advice literally and basically becomes a better person. Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Like, basically, Saitama basically changed her. I'm like, basically, main character of a series changing a beautiful woman's ways and becoming a better person. Why does that sound so familiar? Why? It sounds similar to the character of Boa Hancock from One Piece, where Luffy changed to be a better person, and Saitama did pretty much the same thing. And the one thing Saitama and Luffy have in common is that they're slightly shorter than, well, in the case of Boa Hancock, she's much taller. She's about the same height as Nick Robin. They're both taller than the main character, and they're both smoking hot women. But unlike Boa Hancock, who's a very thirsty woman who really wants her guy so badly, not the case of not the case of Hellish Buzzer. She's not like that. She's not like a thirsty woman. She's obsessed with Saitama, but that's to the point where basically she's lusting after him, like Boa Hancock tends to be most of the time. But that's basically her charm. Yep. And of course, the end of the episode by showing off the leader of the Monster Association, where they pretty much just show him off. Though I will talk about basically change here. Now, the dialogue is pretty much the same. How they show him off is quite different. Now, they do slightly cut some stuff out. Basically, it's like, okay, you have two people just talking off screen, and you show up one of the monsters, and finally show up the boss of the organization. Well, one of the bosses. They call him like the Monster King Octane. Yeah. And that's pretty much all there is for this episode. Now to talk about the changes. There are several changes for this episode. Okay, first starting off with this particular scene here, when Genos is basically strangling one of the monsters. Yeah, this basically is actually, believe it or not, it's not like a full body shot like it is here. It's more like a little closer. Yeah, but that's a minor change. Let's see. Here's another change they made to this. They actually changed a line. Yes, they actually changed a line where you have the sour face. That's what basically Sam calls him. Where he says, "Oh yeah, I went." In the episode, he says, "Well, in the manga, he says I went to the toilet." In the anime, he says I went to the restroom. Yeah, that's another change they made to it. Yeah, mostly the changes basically are minor things here and there, or at least in the case of visual changes. Here's another change they made. Now, in the manga, when they show a flashback to Saitama, it's just basically a brief little thing. In the anime, they actually show in front of his apartment. Yeah, that's another change they make. And here's the next change. Now, in the episode, Super S is basically whipping the back of Hellish Buzzard, basically exposing her back. In the manga, it's basically from her right shoulder down to her left cheek. That's what basically looks like in the manga. In the anime, it's from her left shoulder to her right cheek. Despite that, it still pretty much prints out the same result, but it's a lot more brutal in the anime than it is in the manga. Yeah. Also, it's a lot more bloodier. Yes, they actually make a change to that. Yeah, and mostly put, they keep pretty much a lot of this stuff pretty much the same, except that, well, just like last week's episode, there is no butt shot. Yes, the artist for this particular one, Yusei Marta, yeah, he loves doing butt shots for Super S. In the anime, there's no butt shots for her at all. Nope. And mostly put, oh yeah, and also they do slightly change this basically. Now in the anime, it's not this torn where it shows a part of her panties. Yeah, that's another change they make. It's a slight minor visual change, but it doesn't really affect the main story itself. Now, in the case of this, now next part they changed is basically Buzzard's conversation with her older sister. It's mostly the same except they make some slight changes to some dialogue. Where he says they're hindrance. Yeah, they make a slight change to the actual wording here. But mostly put, it's pretty much the same. But in the case of this book here, now a lot of the chapters are from this particular book, book 12. All but the last chapter is adapted. But they'll probably get that one next week's episode. Also, the martial arts guy who, I think his name's Surgu, he appears in the episode. excuse me, his role in the episode is chastise one A-class hero who is a martial artist, and he beats him pretty easily. Saitama, of course, beats, of course, the guy who was, I think, supposed to be an S-class hero. Oh, there is one more change I forgot to mention. When they show out the Monster King. Yeah, they actually decided to change it a bit. They decided to remove all visuals of the Monster King, so that when they show him off, it's like this big grand reveal, because you hear him, you don't see him. Which, that's a good approach for JC staff to do when it comes to this particular series. They do show us henchmen. They show us henchmen frequently in his last few minutes. Yep, but that's pretty much the change they make to the episode. Yeah, it's mostly all minor changes. Yes, it's all pretty much minor, but I would say the only really big change they make, at least what they cut out, is the butt shots for Super S. Yeah, that's the only thing they really cut out here. I mean, it's minor at best, and yes, as far as I can tell, yeah. Also, I should point out though, because this is the 18th, this is the 6th episode of the season, there is roughly 6 episodes left, because I heard that this season is roughly going to be 12 episodes. I'm like, really? Why 12 episodes? Why so short? Maybe JC's staff is probably having the same thing that happened with Madhouse, where they're not expecting to be a big hit, and, well, the anime did get chastised for, well, not being as good as, let's say, Madhouse, or at least not as good as Season 1. The animation for this season is still very top-notch. I mean, if you watch this season and the previous season, like watch the first season, this one, it feels as though people who worked on this season did work on the previous season. Despite the change of studio, it looks like definitely the same people. And nothing is really majorly cut. Nothing is censored. Now, I know Attack on Titan has basically suffered through censorship stuff, but this season, no, there is nothing censored at all about this particular set of this whole season so far. Yeah. But this is definitely a good episode. Also, I should mention though that toward the end of the episode, apparently they say they defeat both Genos, the Middle Knight, and Middle Bat. Yeah, Middle Bat, that is actually true. That was actually kind of showing, though he was knocked out by his sister by a complete accident. As for Genos and the Middle Knight, when the heck did that happen? Even the manga never bothered to explain this at all. Yeah. But in case you're wondering why am I comparing and contrasting the manga, see how much they adapted? Because I want to be sure that because I show how much respect I have for this particular series, and how much basically how the series is how well it's adapted. That's just how I do things. I'm only doing it for this series and My Hero Academia. I'm not doing it for any other series I watch. Just these two because I had the books right here, and yeah, of course I go to the One Punch Man Wiki site and I do edit it. Though in the cases, like I don't have to take off anything. All I do is add like one thing. Though I do make minor changes here and there. They think it's some other chapter, even though that I have the actual physical book I actually look from, so I can actually confirm basically what I'm saying when it comes to what I think are changes. Though at least the changes they make to the series from manga and anime are all minor. Yes, minor. Though it's mostly visual and some visual changes, some minor dialogue they change. But mostly put, I at least gotta praise JC staff for taking true to the manga. And it's something though, the fact this episode got to 5 full chapters. And probably next week's episode will probably go past episode 70. I wouldn't be surprised, or at least get close to it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised because, well, this one episode went to chapter 66, so yeah, it might go to chapter 7, but who knows? It all depends upon JC staff, okay? So yeah, that's it for this particular review. Now I have roughly 3 other videos coming. I'm doing my next video I'm gonna do right after this one. And I'll be a review of the newest chapter for Gintama. Yes, this series finally resumes after 3 months not publishing another chapter. Yeah, I read it. It's actually a pretty good chapter, but I'll give my thoughts on it in the next video. Okay, see you next video. Bye.